The chamber doors opened with a heavy metallic clang, and every human delegate inside the hall felt the weight of hundreds of alien eyes on them. The Galactic Credit Syndicate was not a place for the weak. It was a towering citadel of glass and black steel, orbiting above the wealthy world of Vornax Prime, the financial capital of the known galaxy. And inside its council chamber, every detail was designed to intimidate. The ceilings stretched upward like the inside of a cathedral. The light cast cold and blue, and the council seats, arranged in a perfect circle, were filled with alien bankers whose species had ruled finance for centuries. At the center of the room, standing on a platform lower than everyone else's seats, were the representatives of Earth. Their leader, Ambassador Elias Cade, stood tall despite the uneven ground. His dark eyes swept across the alien council. He did not bow, and he did not flinch, though he felt the unspoken judgment radiating from every seat. The silence was heavy, but it was quickly broken by a hiss. Councillor Raxith, a scaled and reptilian banker from the Threx Dominion, leaned forward, his claws tapping against the polished stone desk. His voice slithered through the hall. "Humanity requests a loan," Raxith said slowly, savoring the words like a predator playing with prey. "Your species has little collateral, no great fleets and no valuable colonies. Why should the Syndicate invest in you?" The question was not asked to gain an answer. It was asked to humiliate. The chamber filled with soft laughter, clicks and growls from the other alien councillors. Ambassador Cade remained calm. His voice carried across the room. "Earth has suffered. Centuries of conflict left scars. But we have rebuilt before, and we will rebuild again. With your assistance, our planet can join the galactic market as a partner. We do not ask for charity. We ask for credit to prove what humanity can achieve." The words were strong, but the aliens were unmoved. A heavy, insectoid banker named Vrith clattered her mandibles together in a sound like dry bone snapping. Her multifaceted eyes glowed faintly under the chamber's cold lights. "Humans think they can walk into the Syndicate and demand wealth," she said with a sharp click. "Your people barely survived your own wars. What do you have to offer us? Primitive metals? Empty promises? You are not worthy of credit," the council murmured in agreement. Some nodded, some sneered. Cade's second-in-command, a young economist named Linnea Torres, stepped forward with a datapad in her hands. She spoke quickly, almost desperately. "We have resources, rare earth elements, shipyards ready to expand, labor willing to work harder than any alien race. Our people—" "Your people," Raxith interrupted, "are desperate beggars." The words echoed through the chamber like a sentence passed down in court. Torres froze. Her knuckles tightened around the datapad, but she said nothing. Ambassador Cade raised his chin. His voice grew sharper. "You mock us now, but humanity has always risen from the dirt. We have built empires on less than this. We have reached the stars with bare hands and iron will. Give us the chance, and you will see how quickly humanity becomes one of your strongest clients." The reptilian banker leaned back and hissed out a laugh. "That is the problem, human. We do not wish to see you rise." The room went silent. Every human in the chamber felt the truth in those words. The Syndicate did not want partners. They wanted dependents, weak indebted civilizations that could be manipulated for centuries. They wanted humanity to crawl, not to stand. Councillor Vrith spoke again, her mandibles clacking in mock sympathy. "You will leave here with nothing. No credits, no contract, no respect. Earth will continue to struggle. That is the way of things." The words were final. The decision was made. The chamber erupted with cruel laughter. Some aliens pounded their desks. Others flicked their tongues or buzzed their wings in approval. To them, this was not business. This was sport. A weaker race had come begging, and they enjoyed watching the humiliation. But not every alien laughed. In the upper tiers, far from the main council seats, a few observers exchanged uneasy glances. They had seen this before. Civilizations denied credit. Civilizations forced into debt slavery. Civilizations that disappeared from the galactic stage, erased by the Syndicate's games. Some whispered among themselves, but no one spoke aloud. Fear of the bankers kept them silent. Ambassador Cade, however, did not move. He let the laughter ring out. He let the insults roll across the chamber. Then when the noise began to fade, he spoke with a voice that cut through the mockery like a blade. "History will remember this day," he said. "Not for our shame, but for your arrogance. You will regret underestimating humanity." The laughter faltered. The words carried weight, not because the humans had power in that moment, but because of the steel in Cade's tone. He did not sound like a man defeated. He sounded like a man who had just begun to fight. The council tried to laugh again, but it was weaker now. The humans had planted a seed of unease. Security drones buzzed down from the ceilings, signaling the end of the hearing. The humans were escorted out, their request denied, their pride bruised, but their anger burning hotter than ever, the corridor of shadows outside the chamber. The humans walked in silence through long corridors of silver and black metal. The walls reflected the cold lights above, stretching shadows across their faces. None of them spoke until they reached the docking bay, where their shuttle waited. Finally, Linnea Torres broke the silence. "They had no intention of ever helping us," she said, her voice bitter. "It was all a show. They brought us here just to humiliate us." Ambassador Cade nodded slowly. "I know, and that makes their mistake even greater." She looked at him confused. "Mistake? We have nothing. They control everything. How can we fight back against that?" Cade stopped walking. His eyes narrowed. "Because arrogance blinds them. They believe they own the galaxy. But every empire falls. Every predator grows careless. And when the time comes, we will strike in a way they will never expect." His words were not just comfort. They were a promise. Torres felt a chill run down her spine. The warning alarms inside the human embassy shuttle were still echoing in the minds of the delegates as Earth's small convoy left the syndicate station behind. No one spoke. The cold silence of space pressed against the hull, and the humans inside carried the sting of humiliation. They had been laughed at, mocked, dismissed as beggars. The Galactic Credit Syndicate had made sure every species watching saw humanity treated like dirt. But humiliation breeds anger, and anger, in the right hands, becomes fuel. Linnea Torres sat hunched over her datapad, her face pale in the glow of the screen. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls, her eyes scanning endless walls of numbers, records, transactions, debts. She had downloaded everything she could from the Syndicate's open archives before security pushed them out. Most of it was noise, a mountain of figures designed to overwhelm. But she knew numbers better than most. Then she froze. There, on line after line of scrolling text, something didn't fit. The others in the shuttle barely noticed her whisper. "This cannot be right." Ambassador Elias Cade turned, his sharp gaze locking onto her. "What have you found?" Torres zoomed in, highlighting a section of the ledger. "A planetary asset listed by the Syndicate. World designation Velnar 3. It is valued far below standard. The record shows the world is still habitable, with mining infrastructure, orbital docks, and population. But they've marked it at less than a tenth of its worth." The shuttle went silent. She knew humanity had little power, but she also knew Cade was right about one thing. The bankers had underestimated them. And that mistake would cost them dearly. Secrets in the records back aboard the human shuttle, Torres poured through data files stolen from the Syndicate's open archives. On the surface, they looked like routine financial ledgers, billions of transactions, thousands of planetary investments. But something didn't add up. She leaned closer to the glowing screen. Numbers flashed in columns. Debt ratios, asset transfers, planetary valuations. Her eyes widened. The Syndicate wasn't just refusing loans to Earth. They had done this before, systematically targeting young civilizations, stripping them of resources, then letting them collapse. And in the margins of those records, Torres found something even stranger, a note, a forgotten file, a planetary listing buried under years of transactions. A planet owned by the Syndicate, but listed at a value far below what it should have been worth. She frowned, tapping the screen. "This doesn't make sense. Why is this world listed so cheap?" Ambassador Cade leaned over her shoulder, his eyes scanning the numbers. "It means opportunity," he said. She looked at him, unsure. "But what can we do? We don't have the credits. We don't even have the influence to make a bid." Cade smiled faintly, though there was no warmth in it. "Then we'll find a way. Because if the syndicate will not give us a loan, then perhaps we should buy something they never expected us to touch." The shuttle engines roared to life. The humans left Vornax Prime in silence, but inside their hearts burned a fire that no denial could extinguish. The bankers thought humanity had been humiliated. They were wrong. Humanity had just been given a reason to fight harder than ever, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans were pushed too far. Another delegate, Captain Rourke, leaned closer, his scarred face narrowing. "Maybe a clerical error." Torres shook her head. "The syndicate does not make clerical errors. They control the galaxy by making sure no number is wrong." Cade frowned. "Then why is it priced so low?" Torres's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed the storm of thoughts racing inside her. "Because they want it hidden. Something about this world is collapsing, and they are trying to bury it quietly. If no one notices, they can liquidate it later, or sell it for scraps. But right now, it is on their books for purchase." The shuttle hummed with the steady beat of its engines, but to the humans inside, the sound had become the drumbeat of possibility. A dangerous idea. Ambassador Cade rose from his seat. His tall frame filled the cabin as he looked at each of them in turn. "What if," he said slowly, "we purchased it?" The reaction was immediate. Rourke barked out a harsh laugh. "With what money, Elias? They denied us a loan. We barely have enough resources to maintain our fleet, let alone buy an entire world." Another delegate, Senator Amani, shook her head in disbelief. "You're talking about financial suicide. If we gamble what little Earth has left and fail, we will doom billions." But Torres's eyes were burning with fire now. "No, he is right. If the numbers are accurate, this world can be bought for less than what it would take to build a single dreadnought. It is a loophole, and the syndicate's arrogance blinded them from seeing it as a threat. If we take it, we own not just the land. We own everything built on it." The shuttle filled with heated voices, fear, anger, desperation. Finally, Cade raised his hand, silencing them all. "Earth has been denied dignity. They called us beggars. They mocked us before the galaxy. But if we buy this world, even a failing one, we prove them wrong. We prove humanity can take what it needs without bowing to their credit lines." His words echoed like steel striking steel. The hidden planet Torres pulled up a holomap, projecting the star chart into the cabin. The glowing dots of nearby systems filled the air like fireflies. She zoomed in on one sector, a frontier region near the edge of syndicate space. "There," she said, pointing. "Vilna 3, officially classified as an industrial colony. Population, approximately 1 million non-citizens under syndicate employment. Infrastructure functional but decaying. Records show mining operations collapsing due to debt defaults. The syndicate likely abandoned it to cut losses." Captain Rourke crossed his arms. "If it is collapsing, then it will drain us. Why risk everything for a sinking ship?" Cade stepped closer to the hologram. "Because ships can be repaired. Mines can be reopened. Colonies can be rebuilt. What matters is ownership. If we buy this world, it is legally ours. And the syndicate cannot undo it without breaking their own laws," Torres added quickly. "And there is something else. Look here." She highlighted a faint line in the records. "This colony is not just a mining outpost. It also hosts one of the syndicate's regional data vaults. If we own the planet, we own that vault, which means we own records, contracts, debts, and perhaps leverage." The air in the cabin grew heavy. The thought of humanity, laughed at as beggars, suddenly holding the keys to a syndicate vault, sent a chill down everyone's spine. Debate in the dark. The shuttle traveled in silence for hours. The humans argued, whispered, and fought over the decision. Senator Amani paced back and forth. "You are asking us to gamble the survival of Earth on one desperate move. If this fails, our people will curse us for generations," Rourke snarled, his voice like gravel. "Generations are meaningless if we stay weak. We'll be crushed long before then. The syndicate will bleed us dry whether we gamble or not. Torres spoke with urgency. This is not just about money. This is about power. They denied us credit because they fear what we might become. Buying their world turns their fear into reality. The debate raged, but in the center of it all, Cade remained still. He watched them, he listened, and when they finally quieted, he spoke with calm certainty. We stand at the edge of extinction, not because of war, not because of famine, but because the galaxy sees us as too small to matter. The syndicate believes they can decide which species rise and which fall. If we allow them to define us, humanity will remain in chains forever. But if we act, if we take their world from under their claws, then we announce to every star that humans do not crawl. Humans claim. The cabin fell silent. Even Amani stopped pacing. Even Rourke had no words. At last, Torres nodded slowly. Then we must find a way to gather the credits. Gathering the gamble, the decision was made. Within days, Earth's Shadow Coalition began to move. Cade and his delegates returned home under the guise of failure, but in secret, they began preparing for the greatest gamble in human history. Corporations were approached quietly, their executives tempted by promises of exclusive rights on alien trade. Nations pooled resources, hiding transfers under false projects. Even ordinary citizens were reached through whispers of patriotism, each contributing what little they had. It was not enough. Torres worked night after night, eyes burning as she recalculated figures. Even with everything Earth could gather, they were short. The Syndicate's price for Velnar 3, though low by galactic standards, was still a mountain by human measure. But then, in the darkest hours, she found another way. The Syndicate allowed for competitive bidding, and in bidding wars, timing mattered as much as wealth. If humanity struck fast and struck hard, they could seize the planet before rivals even noticed. Cade agreed instantly. We will not crawl into this. We will strike like lightning, the unseen enemy. But the Syndicate was not blind. In the financial halls of Vornax Prime, a minor functionary noticed unusual human activity. Transfers, investments, sudden movements of credit. He reported it to his superior, who smirked at the news. The beggars are desperate, Raxith hissed when he heard. Let them play their little games. If they try to buy anything, we will crush them with legal fire. But even as he mocked, unease crept through the Syndicate. Why were humans moving so quickly? What had they seen in the records? And how much did they know about Velnar 3? The final decision on Earth. In a hidden council chamber beneath the old United Nations dome, the leaders of humanity gathered in secret. The chamber lights flickered as Cade presented the plan. This is our moment, he said, his voice steady. We risk ruin, but we risk it together. If we succeed, we gain a world. If we fail, we lose everything. But I would rather fall trying than live forever under their laughter, the leaders argued. Some wept at the thought of their people starving if the gamble failed. Others clenched their fists in silent agreement. At last, the vote was cast. The result was narrow. But it was enough. Humanity would gamble everything. As the secret council disbanded, Torres remained behind with Cade. She looked at him with both fear and awe. They will come for us, she said quietly. The Syndicate will not let this pass. If we buy their world, they will fight us with everything they have. Cade placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was cold and sharp as a blade. Then let them come. Because this time humanity will not beg. This time we will own the ground they stand on. Outside, the night sky over Earth burned with the light of ships preparing to depart. The greatest gamble in human history had begun, and the galaxy had no idea what storm was about to fall upon it. The bidding chamber was silent, except for the steady hum of the holoscreens. The Galactic Syndicate's auction house was not a place for weak species. It was a theater of predators, where fortunes were won and empires were broken. And tonight, hidden behind false names and encrypted signals, humanity prepared to place the boldest bid in its history. Linnea Torres's fingers shook as she stared at the glowing numbers scrolling across her console. Every second that passed meant another alien investor might notice the listing for Velnar 3. Every second meant discovery. Every second meant failure, she whispered, her voice tight. If they see us move too slowly, we lose everything. Ambassador Elias Cade stood beside her, his broad shoulders stiff, his jaw set like stone. His eyes never left the display. Then we will not move slowly. We strike before they even realize we are here. But the numbers kept changing, credits flowing in and out of the auction house as alien bidders competed for other worlds. The chamber was alive with shifting fortunes. Humanity's resources, pooled from every nation, corporation, and citizen who dared risk their future, waited in silence. It was not enough to outbid everyone forever. It was barely enough to win once if they struck at the perfect moment. Captain Rourke, watching with folded arms, growled, "One mistake and Earth starves." Cade did not answer. He knew the stakes. He felt the weight of billions pressing down on his shoulders. Failure here meant humanity's end. Success meant a future no alien could take away. Torres's screen beeped. Her heart leapt into her throat. "Velnar 3 is live," she said quickly. "The window is open. The hidden move, the auction for Velnar 3, appeared on the syndicate's main exchange. To most, it looked like a worthless rock, a failing colony with debts deeper than its mines. The opening bid was insultingly low by galactic standards, no more than the price of a single trade frigate. That was why the syndicate buried it in the listings. That was why no one cared, but Torres cared. Cade cared. Humanity cared. Cade leaned forward. His voice was sharp. "Place the bid." Torres's finger slammed against the console. The numbers shifted. Earth's pooled fortune vanished in a blink, converted into the opening claim on Velnar 3. For a moment, nothing happened. The galaxy did not notice. The chamber remained quiet. Then the counter ticked upward. An alien syndicate branch had placed a second bid. Torres's breath caught. "They saw us." Cade's eyes narrowed. "No, they saw an opportunity. They do not know it is us yet. Hold, wait." The numbers climbed again. Another alien faction joined in. The auction was waking up. Rourke slammed his fist against the wall. "We are finished. We cannot outbid the syndicate itself." Torres shook her head fiercely. "No, this is exactly what we expected. They think this is routine. They are not watching closely. If we time the strike, we can still take it." The strike minutes dragged like hours. The bidding war rose and fell, alien factions circling like vultures. Each increase in price gnawed at humanity's last reserves. Torres's hands moved like lightning across her console. She tracked the timing of each bid, the rhythm of the auction, the moments when the predators paused to wait for weakness. "There," she whispered. "That is the gap. That is when they hesitate." Cade's voice was iron. "When I say, unleash everything." The numbers ticked higher. The syndicate's branch bid again, confident and slow. They expected no resistance. Cade's hand clenched into a fist. He waited, eyes locked on the counter, counting every second. "Now, do it," he ordered. Torres slammed the command. Every last credit humanity owned, every coin, every hidden reserve, poured into the auction in a single overwhelming surge. The numbers jumped so high, so fast, that the alien bidders faltered. The syndicate's own systems froze for a heartbeat. Confused by the sudden leap, the chamber lights flickered. The auction house roared with alerts, and then the counter locked. Winner, humanity, shock. Across the stars, for a moment, silence. The kind of silence that comes after a lightning strike. Then the syndicate chamber erupted. Alien voices howled in disbelief. "Who placed that bid? Impossible. No primitive race has that wealth." In the heart of the auction house, Councillor Raxith's scaled face twisted in fury as the news reached him. He slammed his claws against his desk, shattering the display. "Find them," he hissed. "Find the thieves who dare." But the system could not lie. The contracts were binding, the rules unbreakable even by the syndicate. Velnar 3 had been purchased, and the new owner registered in glowing golden script, Earth, humanity's triumph, inside their hidden chamber. The humans stared at the screen in stunned silence. Torres's hands trembled. We did it. Rourke exhaled like a man who had been holding his breath for days. By all the stars, we actually did it. Ambassador Cade closed his eyes for a brief second. He let the moment wash over him. Then he opened them again, sharp and cold. This is not victory. This is only the beginning. They will come for us now. Torres nodded, still wide-eyed. Then what do we do? Cade's answer was immediate. We go to Velnar 3. We claim what is ours before the syndicate can strike. The price of defiance. The news spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, species whispered of the humans' gamble. Some laughed, calling it reckless suicide. Others watched with quiet admiration. A weak race had just humiliated the syndicate on their own stage, but admiration was not enough to save them. In hidden chambers, syndicate councillors met in secret. Their voices were sharp, their anger venomous. They must be destroyed. They cannot be allowed to hold Velnar 3. If we let them keep it, others will rise against us. But not all agreed. A few alien voices, quieter, muttered, "The humans played by the rules. If we break our laws to stop them, we weaken ourselves." The syndicate did not care. It mattered more than law, and so they began to plan. Mercenaries were summoned. Assassins were hired. Fleets were whispered into motion. Humanity had won the gamble, but the syndicate intended to turn triumph into tragedy. Journey to Velnar 3. The human convoy left Earth with speed and secrecy. Small fleets of warships, stripped of luxury, armed with everything Earth could muster, carried the first settlers and soldiers toward their new world. Inside the command ship, Torres sat with Cade in the strategy room. Holograms of Velnar 3 glowed between them. "It is worse than we thought," Torres said, pointing at the projections. "The infrastructure is decaying faster than expected. Half the mining shafts are abandoned. The orbital docks are rusting. And the population, they are not loyal. They are syndicate workers who see us as intruders." Cade studied the glowing map without flinching. "Then we will win them over, or we will outlast them. Either way, the planet is ours now." Rourke entered, his face grim. "Scouts report syndicate vessels massing near the border. They are moving fast." Cade's jaw tightened. "Good, let them come. We did not buy this world to give it back." The first sight weeks later, the convoy emerged from warp. Before them hung Velnar 3, a green and brown sphere scarred by mines and factories, its skies veined with faint trails of smoke. It was not a paradise. It was a wounded world. But it was theirs. The humans stared at it in silence, some with awe, some with fear. Torres whispered, "This is the most expensive gamble in human history. And now we must make it worth the price." Ambassador Cade's voice was iron. "We will, because the syndicate thinks this is our weakness. They are wrong. This is our beginning." The ships descended, engines blazing. For the first time in history, humanity owned alien soil by right of law, not conquest. For the first time, the galaxy would have to face them not as beggars, but as rivals, and far above in the dark reaches of space. Syndicate warships began to gather like wolves on the edge of a fire. The gamble had been won. But the war was only starting. The first syndicate banker screamed when the numbers began to vanish. His six-clawed hands tore at the glowing display as if he could stop the flow with brute force. But the credits kept draining, line after line of transactions flashing red. Fortunes built over centuries were melting away in minutes. "This is impossible!" he shrieked, his scaled skin pale with fear. "No primitive species can cause this," but the numbers did not lie. Humanity's gamble at the auction had shaken the very core of the syndicate's economy. In the grand financial towers of the syndicate capital, chaos rippled like wildfire. Accountants shrieked. Traders clawed at their consoles. Vast vaults of digital wealth trembled as Earth's sudden surge of credits triggered waves of imbalance. The auction victory should have been a humiliation. Instead, it was worse. Investors across the galaxy began to ask dangerous questions. If humans could pool enough wealth to buy a syndicate colony, what else could they do? If the rules had allowed it once, could the rules be bent again? If the syndicate's control was not absolute, was it fragile? Fear spread faster than reason. Fear always did. Counsel in panic deep inside the syndicate's ruling chamber, Councillor Raxith slammed his claws against the stone table. This cannot stand. If the humans hold Velnar 3, others will rise. Already the bankers whisper. Already the merchants doubt. We must strike now before the infection spreads. Around him, the other councillors hissed and argued. One, a sleek amphibian with eyes like burning coals, spat, "Destroy the humans! Crush their fleet! Burn their planet! Only fire will remind the galaxy of our power." Another, older and more cautious, shook his head. "No, we cannot act so openly. The law binds us. If we shatter our own contracts, we prove that our system is nothing but chains. And if the chains are false, who will obey?" The chamber erupted in snarls and roars. The syndicate was not used to fear, but tonight fear ruled them. The humans sighed on Velnar 3. Humanity's ships settled into orbit. Settlers stepped onto alien soil, their boots pressing into ground that once belonged to the syndicate. The colony was broken, yes, but it was also rich with hidden promise. Minerals buried deep, rivers winding through fertile valleys, skies that could still be tamed. Ambassador Elias Cade stood on the landing platform, the alien wind tugging at his cloak. Around him, soldiers and settlers worked quickly, building defenses, raising flags, establishing a foothold. Beside him, Linnea Torres checked her data pad, her brow furrowed. "The syndicate is panicking," she said softly. "Markets are crashing. Their bankers are bleeding. But that only makes them more dangerous." Captain Rourke barked orders to the soldiers nearby. His voice was hard as iron. "Set up turrets on the ridge. I want shields ready in under an hour. If they come, they'll find we're not easy prey." Cade's jaw tightened. He could almost feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him. Victory at the auction had given them a foothold, but panic in syndicate banks meant retaliation would come soon, and it would be merciless. Whispers in the dark inn, a smoky chamber lit by golden flame. 3 syndicate bankers met in secret. Their voices trembled, not from anger but from fear. "The markets are unstable," one hissed. "If we do not stop this, if humans can challenge us in finance, others will follow." "Then destroy their accounts," another whispered. "Erase their credits. Make it seem as if they never existed." The third, older and wiser, shook his head. "We cannot. The contracts are binding. If we break them, the galaxy will see us as weak. Already smaller races test our edges. Already whispers spread. If we falter now, we invite rebellion." Silence fell. None of them wanted to admit the truth. The humans had found the syndicate's weakness. Not in fleets, not in armies, but in faith. The entire galactic system ran on the belief that the syndicate could not be beaten. Humanity had cracked that belief, and belief once broken was the hardest thing to mend. Rising tension on Velnar 3 days turned into weeks. On Velnar 3, the humans dug in. Settlers worked to repair the colony's broken infrastructure, while engineers rebuilt power stations and miners reopened shafts. But danger was everywhere. Alien workers who had lived under syndicate rule for generations eyed the humans with suspicion. Some whispered about rebellion. Others vanished into the hills, perhaps to join syndicate loyalists. At night, strange signals flickered in the skies, unmarked ships lurking at the edge of sensors. Captain Rourke stormed into Cade's command chamber, his face grim. "They're testing us. Probes, scouts, raiders. Nothing large yet, but they're circling like wolves." Cade did not flinch. "They want us to panic." "We will not," Linnea Torres leaned forward. "We cannot just wait. If the syndicate's bankers collapse, they may unleash mercenaries to cover their weakness. And if mercenaries fail, they will send fleets. We must prepare now." Cade's voice was calm but sharp. "Then prepare, because when they come, we will show the galaxy that humanity does not bow." The syndicate's next move back on the syndicate capital. The council's fury grew. Councillor Raxith stood before the others, his voice a roar. "We cannot fight them with law. We cannot erase their purchase, but we can drown them. We can send debts. We can send assassins. We can choke them until their world burns without ever firing a shot. The council hissed approval. This was the syndicate way, power not only through war, but through chains unseen. Orders were given. Syndicate agents began to move. Hidden debts were forged, contracts rewritten, mercenaries unleashed. The plan was simple. If humanity could not be broken with fleets, they would be broken with fear and betrayal. Fire in the night. The first attack came without warning, on Velnar 3. As night blanketed the colony, explosions ripped through the mining district. Firestorms lit the sky. Human settlers screamed as syndicate loyalists struck from the shadows, planting bombs and sabotaging power lines. Captain Rourke charged into the chaos, his soldiers at his back. Plasma fire lit the night as humans and traitors clashed in the burning streets. Torres sprinted through smoke and ash, dragging wounded civilians to safety. Her lungs burned, her arms ached, but she did not stop. Ambassador Cade stood in the command bunker, his voice steady over the comms. "Hold the line. Do not break. Tonight, the syndicate tests us. Tonight, we prove this world is ours." The fighting raged for hours. Flames devoured entire blocks, but slowly, brutally, the humans held. The syndicate loyalists were hunted down, their cells broken, their leaders captured. When dawn came, the colony stood scarred but unbroken. Rourke wiped blood from his armor and spat into the dirt. "If that was only the beginning, we're in for hell." Cade looked to the horizon, his face hard. "Then let hell come." The panic spreads far across the stars. Syndicate bankers screamed as markets crashed again. The raid on Velnar 3 had failed. The humans still held. And worse, whispers spread that the syndicate was losing control. Merchants from minor species began pulling their wealth out of syndicate banks. Ships refused to pay syndicate tariffs. Contracts were broken in small but growing numbers. Every broken deal was like a crack in a dam. The bankers saw the flood coming. They could not stop it. And deep inside, some realized a truth they dared not speak. Humanity had done what no one else dared. They had shown that the syndicate could bleed. The final meeting in the council chamber, voices rose in fury. "We must crush them now. No, we cannot risk open war. They are nothing. A weak species. They are not weak. They are dangerous." Councillor Raxith slammed his claws down and hissed, "Then let us end this debate. War or ruin, choose." Silence fell. Each councillor knew the truth. War would be costly. Ruin would be worse. The syndicate faced its greatest test in centuries, and it had been brought by a species the council had once dismissed as myth. On Velnar 3, as humans rebuilt their defenses after the Night of Fire, new signals appeared in orbit, massive ships. Syndicate warships, larger than anything Earth had ever seen, sliding from warp like shadows across the stars. Alarms blared across the colony. Soldiers scrambled. Civilians froze in fear. Ambassador Cade stepped onto the command balcony, his eyes locked on the burning light of the syndicate fleet above. "They are here," he said, voice cold and steady. "And now the true battle begins." The sky trembled. The war for Velnar 3 had arrived. The sky tore open as syndicate warships fell into orbit. Every screen across Velnar 3 blazed with warnings. Every alarm screamed in the colony. Massive shadows eclipsed the stars above, each ship bristling with weapons older than Earth's entire space program. Children froze in the streets. Settlers dropped their tools. Soldiers gripped their rifles tighter. Humanity's gamble had brought them this far. But now the syndicate had come in force, and the storm of war was about to break. Ambassador Elias Cade stared at the giant vessels from the command balcony. His heart pounded, but his voice did not waver. "This is it. Hold the line. If we break today, humanity breaks forever." Panic in the colony inside the settlement. Fear spread like wildfire. Families rushed to shelters. Engineers scrambled to bring shields online. Turrets turned toward the skies, humming with unstable power. The colony was young, its defenses rushed and raw. Against syndicate warships it looked fragile, a fortress of paper facing steel. Captain Rourke stormed into the command center, his armor scorched from the last raid. His voice was iron. "They're not here to talk. Their weapons are locked on us." Linnea Torres, bent over her datapad, didn't look up. "If they fire first, they break their own laws. The galaxy will see them as liars," Rourke spat. "Do you think they care about laws when they can bury us under fire?" Cade raised a hand. "They care enough. The syndicate lives on reputation. If they break it openly, they destroy themselves." He fixed his eyes on the screens showing the looming ships. "They'll try something else. Something to make us look like the criminals." First Contactor voice crackled over the comms, harsh and cold. "This is Counselor Raxith of the Syndicate. You have no right to this world. Surrender your claim and leave, or your people will pay the price." The room fell silent. The settlers, the soldiers, even the engineers listened, their hearts thundering. Cade stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. "The contract is binding. This planet is ours by law. Your bankers signed it. Your own system made it valid. If you break it, the galaxy will know what the Syndicate truly is." Raxith's reply came like a growl. "Then let the galaxy watch you burn." The channel cut. Seconds later, the warships shifted into attack formation. The first strike, the Syndicate fleet did not fire on the colony directly. Instead, they launched waves of fighters, sleek and vicious, streaking through the atmosphere like falling knives. Air sirens wailed. Settlers screamed. Soldiers raced to defensive lines as the first barrage slammed into the outskirts. Buildings crumbled. Fire swallowed the horizon. Captain Rourke roared into his comms. "All units, hold the walls! Hold every street! They want to break us with fear. Show them humanity does not run!" Gunfire cracked across the colony. Anti-air cannons lit the skies with fire. The ground shook as Syndicate forces landed on the edges of the settlement. Mercenaries in black armor, their weapons gleaming with alien energy. The battle for Velnar III had begun. Street by street, the colony became a war zone. Mercenaries swept through the outer streets, their armor deflecting weak rifle fire. Human soldiers fought desperately, taking cover in doorways, firing from windows, dragging the wounded out of burning rubble. Torres ran with the medics, her hands covered in blood as she bound wounds, her voice steady even when her heart shook. "Stay with me. Stay alive. We're not done yet." Above, fighters screamed through the skies. One crashed into the central square, exploding into fire and shrapnel. Settlers fled in terror, only to be pulled back by human soldiers who refused to abandon them. Captain Rourke led from the front, his rifle thundering, his armor battered but unbroken. "Push them back! Every street they take, we take back with blood." And slowly, against the odds, the humans held. Syndicate tactics from orbit, Counselor Raxith watched the battle unfold. His eyes narrowed. "These humans fight harder than expected," he hissed. "But they are still weak. Bleed them. Grind them. Do not crush them quickly. Make their suffering a warning to all who would defy us." The warships adjusted tactics. Instead of annihilating the colony, they struck carefully. Supply depots, water lines, power grids. Each blow was meant to starve, to choke, to weaken the will of the settlers. It was financial warfare turned into fire and steel. The Syndicate's favorite game, now played on the battlefield. Humanity strikes back, but humanity had learned from the Syndicate. They had studied their enemies well. Cade stood in the command bunker, his voice cold as he gave the order. "Activate the hidden batteries." Beneath the colony, buried deep in the earth, secret artillery rose from hidden bunkers. Cannons built in secret, using every scrap of stolen Syndicate design and human innovation, powered up with a deafening roar. When they fired, the night sky lit up. Explosions tore through Syndicate fighters. 2 of their landing craft disintegrated before touching the ground. Even one of the warships above staggered under the sudden barrage. Rourke grinned fiercely as the ground shook. "You wanted a fight. Now you've got one." Fear in the Syndicate on the flagship, panic rippled through the officers. The humans should not have weapons like this. They are primitives. They should not resist this way. "Counselor, we underestimated them." Raxith's fury shook the deck. Then crush them harder. Send more mercenaries. Break their lines. Do not return until their flag is torn down. But in his cold heart, a shadow of fear grew. Humanity was not breaking. Humanity was adapting. Humanity was turning the syndicate's own strategies against them. Night of blood. The fighting raged long into the night. On the outskirts, mercenaries stormed barricades. Human soldiers fought in the mud and fire, their faces black with ash, their bodies bruised but unbroken. In the central square, settlers armed with nothing more than tools and makeshift weapons stood beside soldiers, refusing to flee. Torres moved like a ghost among them, saving lives, whispering courage, keeping hope alive when despair clawed at their hearts. Cade remained calm, his voice carrying across every comm channel. We hold because we must. We hold because the galaxy is watching. Stand strong. Stand human. The syndicate had expected panic. Instead, they found defiance. Turning point near dawn, Captain Rourke led a counterattack. His soldiers stormed through the smoking streets, hurling grenades, cutting down mercenaries in brutal close combat. One by one, the syndicate's hired killers fell back. Their commanders screamed for them to hold, but the humans fought with a fire no credits could buy. By sunrise, the mercenaries retreated to their ships, leaving behind piles of dead and shattered weapons. The colony stood battered, scarred, and bleeding. But it stood, Syndicate's fury on the flagship. Councillor Raxith's rage boiled. They resist us like predators, not prey. This is not a victory. This is humiliation. He turned to his fleet commanders, his eyes blazing. Prepare the bombardment. If they will not break, we will burn their colony to ash. The officers hesitated. One spoke in a trembling voice. Councillor, if we bombard, we break the law. The galaxy will see. Our power rests on reputation. Raxith's claws curled. Then let them see. Better feared than laughed at. On Velnar 3, alarms wailed once more. The skies burned bright as syndicate warships angled their massive cannons downward. Settlers froze. Soldiers raised their weapons uselessly against the sky. Torres whispered a prayer under her breath. Rourke clenched his fists, ready to die fighting. Ambassador Cade stood tall on the command balcony, staring at the fire above. His voice was calm, steady, defiant. They think they can burn us into dust. Let them try. Tonight, the galaxy will see the truth. The warship's cannons glowed brighter, gathering fire that could erase cities in seconds. The colony waited, hearts pounding, as the sky itself prepared to fall. The syndicate warships lit the sky with fire. Their cannons glowed, each one charged with enough power to erase the colony in a single strike. Across Velnar 3, the settlers froze in terror, staring upward as the heavens themselves seemed to tremble. Mothers held children close. Soldiers gritted their teeth, knowing no wall, no gun, no courage could stop what was about to fall. Captain Rourke spat into the dirt and muttered, "So this is how they end us." But Ambassador Elias Cade did not move. He stood on the balcony of the command center, staring up at the glowing cannons. His voice was steady, sharp as steel. "They will not fire." The settlers around him gasped. Rourke turned, fury in his eyes. "Have you lost your mind? They are seconds away from burning us alive." Cade's jaw tightened. "If they fire, they destroy themselves. The syndicate's power rests on contracts and fear. If they break their own law in front of the galaxy, no one will ever trust them again. They want us to believe we are doomed, but they need us alive." And then, just as the cannons reached their peak, the fire dimmed. The syndicate warships held their aim, but they did not shoot. Across the galaxy, countless eyes were watching. Traders, smugglers, diplomats, even rival governments had tapped into the feeds from Velnar 3. Every ship and every world with even a fragment of interest in the syndicate's power had tuned in to see if the bankers would break their own laws. For centuries, the syndicate's greatest weapon was not its fleets or its mercenaries. It was belief. Belief that their system was unbreakable, that contracts could never be challenged, that debts could never be denied. And now that belief cracked, the syndicate had hesitated. The whole galaxy had seen it. Cracks in the syndicate on the flagship. Councillor Raxith's claws dug into the command chair. Rage twisted his face. "Fire, you cowards! End this!" But his officers trembled. One finally spoke, voice shaking. "Councillor, we cannot. The other houses are watching. If we fire, we bring ruin on ourselves. Already our markets collapse. Already our creditors whisper rebellion. If we break the law here, the syndicate will not survive the month." Raxith hissed like a cornered beast. He wanted blood, but he knew the truth. Humanity had forced them into a trap. The order to fire was never given. Instead, the syndicate pulled back their fleet, circling above the planet like wolves, too afraid to bite. The human move inside the command center. Linnea Torres broke into a shaky laugh. "He was right. You were right. They didn't fire." Rourke still looked as if he could punch through steel, but even his shoulders eased a fraction. "Then we're still breathing. For now." Cade's eyes, however, did not soften. "Breathing is not enough. They will not stop trying to choke us. If we want to survive, we must strike where it truly hurts. Money." Torres frowned. "You mean their debts?" Cade nodded. "The syndicate owes more than it owns. Their wealth is smoke. If we control their planet, we control their vaults. And if we call in their loans, we can turn the galaxy against them," Rourke growled. "You're saying fight them with paper instead of guns." Cade's lips curved in a cold smile. "Exactly. Beat bankers at their own game. A dangerous play. The plan was simple yet terrifying. Human envoys sent encrypted messages across the stars. To small colonies crushed by syndicate taxes. To old empires bled dry by syndicate interest. To mercenary groups cheated by syndicate contracts. The message was clear. The syndicate no longer held the leash. The planet that housed their central vaults was under human control. And humanity, unlike the bankers, would honor fair trade. At first, no one believed. But then the first proof came. A forgotten colony, enslaved by debt for generations, received word from humans. Their debt was cancelled, wiped away by Earth's authority over the syndicate's ledgers. The news spread like wildfire. Across the galaxy, cheers erupted from worlds long crushed under syndicate boots. Old grudges awoke. Civilizations once silent now sharpened their knives. For the first time in centuries, the syndicate was not feared. It was hunted. Syndicate fracture inside the Capitol towers. Syndicate bankers screamed as reports poured in. Rebellions on the rim. Entire sectors refusing payment. Merchants withdrawing their wealth. Armies defecting! Panic consumed the council chambers. The syndicate's vast empire was unraveling, thread by thread, and at the center of the unraveling stood humanity. Councillor Raxith slammed his claws on the table, his voice breaking with fury. "This cannot be happening. They are primitives. They cannot undo centuries of power in weeks." But another councillor, older and wiser, whispered the truth. "They have done what we feared most. They made the galaxy stop believing in us. And without belief, the syndicate was nothing. The battle for allegiance on Velnar 3. Strange fleets began to appear, not syndicate warships, but alien vessels bearing flags of rebellion. Some came to pledge loyalty to humanity. Others came to test if the humans truly held power. One delegation arrived, scarred and weary, their leader bowing before Cade. "Our people were strangled by syndicate debt for generations. You freed us. If you will lead, we will follow." Another came with weapons raised, demanding proof. They were shown the syndicate's contracts, shredded and rewritten under human authority. When they saw the truth, even they bent the knee. Rourke watched it all with suspicion. "We're gathering allies, or we're gathering vultures waiting to pick our bones." Cade's answer was calm. "It does not matter. With every ally we gain, the syndicate loses ground. Their empire crumbles, and we rise. Syndicate counterstrike, but the syndicate was not finished. Desperate, they unleashed new terror. Mercenary fleets, twice the size of Earth's entire navy, descended on human supply lines. Saboteurs infiltrated colonies, setting fire to depots and poisoning water reserves. Assassins hunted human envoys, leaving blood and fear in their wake. For weeks, humanity staggered under the blows. Settlers on Velnar 3 went hungry. Soldiers fought in exhaustion. Ships limped back from burning battles, but they did not break. Every attack only fueled the galaxy's anger against the Syndicate. Every strike only proved their desperation, and slowly, painfully, humanity turned the tide. The turning point happened in the outer sectors. A Syndicate fleet, massive and unchallenged, cornered a small human convoy. The convoy should have been destroyed. Instead, reinforcements arrived, not from Earth, but from alien allies once enslaved by Syndicate contracts. Dozens of ships, old but fierce, joined the humans in battle. The Syndicate fleet was crushed. News of the defeat spread across the stars like wildfire. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer alone. The galaxy had chosen a side. Syndicate collapsed one by one. Syndicate holdings fell. Vaults seized by rebels. Armies defected. Merchants burned their contracts. The bankers screamed and clawed at their wealth, but it slipped away faster than they could count. Their towers shook. Their fleets deserted. Their empire of debt crumbled into dust, and at the center of the storm stood humanity, holding the planet that had once been the heart of Syndicate power. The final blow in the council chamber, Councillor Raxith stood broken. His claws trembled, his voice a whisper. How did it come to this? How did we lose to them? No one answered. The other councillors were gone, fled, killed, or hiding. The Syndicate was no more. On Velnar 3, the human colony stood battered but unbowed. Settlers rebuilt walls. Soldiers raised the human flag higher than ever before. Ambassador Cade walked among them, silent, proud. The Syndicate was shattered. Humanity had done what no one thought possible. But Linnea Torres whispered at his side, her voice heavy with warning. This is only the beginning. Now that we hold power, others will come for it. The galaxy will not let us rise without challenge. Cade looked to the horizon, where alien fleets gathered, not in war, but in uneasy alliance. His voice was steady, yet filled with iron. Then let them come. We showed the galaxy that humanity cannot be broken. Now we will show them what we can build. And above them, in the deep black of space, the last Syndicate loyalists gathered their remaining fleets, preparing for one final desperate strike. The HFY last Syndicate fleet blotted out the stars. It was not as vast as before. Too many ships had deserted. Too many sectors had fallen, but it was still enormous. A final desperate armada gathered from every loyal world the bankers still held. They came with teeth bared, ready to drag humanity into the abyss with them. On Velnar 3, the alarm sirens wailed. Settlers ran to shelters. Soldiers loaded rifles with trembling hands. In orbit, the scarred hulls of Earth's ships formed a fragile line against the approaching storm. Captain Rourke stood on the bridge of the Resolute, his hands gripping the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. His voice was low but steady. This is it. They've thrown everything they have left at us. If we break here, humanity dies. Ambassador Elias Cade's face appeared on the view screen. He spoke with calm steel. Then we do not break. Today the Syndicate falls. Or we do. Every comm relay, every hidden transmitter, every smuggler's beacon in the galaxy was tuned to Velnar 3. The whole universe was watching this final clash. The Syndicate wanted blood, wanted to prove their strength still commanded fear. Humanity wanted survival, and more than that, they wanted freedom, not just for themselves, but for every world crushed under centuries of debt. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. And then the Syndicate opened fire. The first strike columns of energy tore across space, blazing into the human line. Shields flared, ships buckled, and alarms screamed. The Resolute shook under the barrage, sparks raining down as panels blew apart. Shields at 40%, shouted the tactical officer. Hold the line! Rourke bellowed. His jaw was clenched so tight it ached, but he refused to give ground. Return fire. Hit them with everything we've got. Human cannons roared back, hurling fire into the void. Syndicate ships shuddered, some exploding into brilliant shards of flame. But for every one destroyed, 2 more pressed forward. It was not enough. Humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. For a moment, it seemed the Syndicate might crush them after all, the unexpected reinforcements. Then As the syndicate pressed the attack, new signatures flared on scanners. Hundreds of ships appeared at the edge of the system. Alien ships, old ships, scarred, battered, mismatched, but allied. Voices crackled over comms, 100 different tongues speaking the same truth. We owe you our freedom. We will not let you fall. The syndicate's chains broke on Earth's anvil. Today we fight together. Rourke's eyes widened. By God. They came. Torres, on the bridge beside him, grinned through the smoke. Not just us anymore. We're not alone. The syndicate fleet turned in confusion as waves of rebel ships surged forward, crashing into their flanks. Suddenly, the balance of power shifted. A battle of wills. The fight became chaos. Human ships and their new allies darted between syndicate cruisers, striking from angles the bankers never expected. Syndicate formations broke apart as mutiny erupted in their own ranks, crews unwilling to die for a council already collapsing. Inside the syndicate flagship, Councillor Raxith screamed orders, his claws tearing at the control chair. Hold the line, kill them. Do not let humanity claim victory. But even as he screamed, reports poured in of defections, of captains surrendering, of entire squadrons abandoning the fight. The syndicate was bleeding from within, the turning point on the Resolute. Rourke saw the moment the enemy cracked. A massive syndicate dreadnought, centerpiece of their fleet, suddenly stopped firing. Its crew had mutinied, turning the ship's cannons against their former masters. The explosion tore through syndicate lines, scattering ships in every direction. This is our chance, Cade's voice thundered across the fleet. Push forward! End this! With a roar, humanity and their allies surged. Cannons blazed. Fighters screamed through the void. One by one, syndicate warships burned, their wreckage falling like shattered stars. The fall of the syndicate. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was clear. When the smoke cleared, syndicate power was broken. Their fleets lay in ruins. Their commanders were dead or fled. The survivors drifted, powerless, into the cold dark. On the bridge of the flagship, Councillor Raxith slumped in his chair, his voice a whisper filled with disbelief. Centuries of empire, undone by children from a single world. As flames consumed the ship, his last words vanished into static. Humanity victorious on Velnar 3, when the news reached the surface, the settlers erupted in cheers. Children danced in the streets. Soldiers who had stood on the brink of death laughed and wept. The human flag was raised above the colony, higher than ever before. Linnea Torres stood beside Ambassador Cade, watching the celebrations. Her voice was quiet, almost reverent. We did it. Against everything, we actually did it. Cade's expression was calm, but his eyes burned with pride. No, humanity did it. Every man, woman, and child who refused to bow. We stood when no one else would. And now the galaxy knows. A new order in the weeks that followed, the galaxy shifted. Worlds once bound by syndicate debt declared themselves free. Merchant guilds swore loyalty to new trade pacts led by humanity. Alien civilizations, long crushed under contracts, now sent envoys of alliance. For the first time in history, humanity stood not as prey, but as a rising power, a force no one could ignore. But with victory came responsibility, Rourke warned. The syndicate's gone, but the galaxy is full of wolves. They'll see us as prey, or they'll see us as rivals. Either way, the fight isn't over. Cade nodded. Then let them come. Humanity has shown the galaxy we are not to be underestimated. Now we must show them what kind of leaders we will be. The final scene. Humanity ascendant on the balcony of the rebuilt council tower, Elias Cade addressed not just his people, but the galaxy. His speech was broadcast across every world that would listen. Once, the syndicate told us we were nothing, that humanity was small, that our future could be bought and sold. Today we proved them wrong. Humanity does not bow. Humanity does not break. We are not here to rule by fear. We are here to build a future worth living in. To stand with those who stood with us, to give freedom where there was only debt. Remember this day, the day humanity stood and the galaxy stood with us. Cheers erupted, echoing across the stars, above, in the endless black. Human and allied ships flew together, not as slaves, not as subjects, but as equals. The syndicate was gone, humanity was ascendant, and the galaxy would never be the same again.